following in the footsteps of legendary Radio 2 star Steve Wright, whose afternoon show ran for a staggering 23 years, was always going to be a hard task for Scott Mills. But as DJ Scott prepares to mark 2 years in the chair, he finally feels he's shaken off the new boy tag and become part of the family, although it wasn't always easy that you've got your hardcore, always listening to Radio 2 fans. Now it feels that I've been on long enough for them to be like, oh, we do quite like him now. Maybe they'd never listened to me before, he says. But rather than trying to please a whole new audience, he believes many listeners followed him from Radio 1 where he made his name. I've been on the radio for hundreds of years, so if you were 20 and you listened to me on Radio 1 and you're now 40, you might have come over to Radio 2 with me, said Scott. People do like a routine. I think there's a section of the audience who have moved across with me, and it's always nice to hear. There are people who text in or when you meet them, who say, oh, I used to listen to you on Radio 1. It's the same with Vernon Kay. Tragically, just 16 months after the switch, Steve Wright passed away from a ruptured stomach ulcer at the age of 69. Scott was one of many DJs at the station to join the outpouring of tributes, calling the late host an absolute legend. Being a new face at the station wasn't daunting for Scott, who says he finally got to live it up with colleagues at the station's annual Radio 2 in the Park Festival, held in Leicester last year. Not least as there were a few glasses of vino involved. It felt really special to me. It was the first major thing I'd done here and the first time me and all the other DJs had got together. I just thought, this is a flipping great place to work and everyone is amazing. I had such a great time. I was drinking all the wines with Tony Blackburn, I was having an absolute blast with Michael Ball, who is hilarious, and hanging out with Wayne Wynn Evans and Ryland Clark backstage. It was awesome. He added, it really made me feel, as the new boy I guess, that I was finally part of the family. It's the best job. Radio 2 is just massive, it feels massive. It's an honor and joy to be part of. Scott has undergone another routine shakeup in recent weeks, stepping into cover for Zoe Ball's breakfast show following the death of her mother. Thankfully, he still enjoys the thrill of the early starts. I get a buzz every day. A 4 a.m. alarm is not that much fun, but when it comes to 6:30 a.m. and you start playing the opening music to the show, I still get that thrill every day, and that's what's amazing. The adrenaline is still there. It feels great to be on air every day. All you have to do is get enough sleep. You do have to be disciplined. A few times this week I've called it quits at 8:30 p.m. and if you do that you're good. Gone are the hard partying days of his youth when he pulled in all-nighters. I've got more sensible as I've got older. I would go out and go straight into Radio 1 for early breakfast. But not anymore. You've got to prioritize sleep and exercise even when you feel like you can't be bothered. It's quite odd how quickly you adjust to early mornings if you have to. Scott is DJing at the Radio 2 in the Park Festival this weekend, which is being held in Preston. Sting, Sugababes and Kim Wilde are all playing the event, which has this year been extended to 3 days after the success of Leicester in 2023. The Radio 2 DJs are playing to listeners at a pre-party on Friday, and Scott says that's one night he won't be going to bed early. When you go away with a group of friends, everyone gets a bit giddy on the first day. I can't wait, he said. He is taking to the main stage to warm up the crowd ahead of Sunday night headliners the Pet Shop Boys alongside close friend and now colleague Ryland Clark. It's a lot of pressure to play before the headliner, but I love it, said Scott. We're still working through the set list. Ryland has basically over the last couple of years taught himself, or he's had lessons, in how to properly DJ. He can actually properly mix, which I can't say that I can. So fair play, he has taken the time and effort to learn his craft. We've got some absolute bangers ready. I can promise the lead up to the Pet Shop Boys will be stunning. But festival life has not always been smooth sailing for Scott, who was a stalwart for BBC Radio 1 festivals for over a decade. There was one time I DJ'd before Lady Gaga, he says. It was peak Lady Gaga in 2011 and we were in Carlisle. They said I'd be on for 30 minutes, but then 30 minutes turned into an hour, then to an hour and a half. And this is what I learned from this, you need to bring more than enough music because I was running out of tracks. It was a stress dream. I was looking at the crowd thinking, I've got no songs left. I was quite stressed that Lady Gaga wasn't appearing, and for some reason I went up really close to the big screens they have on the stage and, I don't know why, but I touched the screen just to see what it was like. Now don't do that because they are razor sharp. So I was DJing, Lady Gaga wasn't turning up, I'm running out songs, and also because I've just touched the screen my finger is bleeding profusely. I was having to stem the blood flow with some very light blue jeans I had on. The stain was getting bigger and bigger. That was a lot of drama. St. John's ambulance came.